أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وأتموا الحج والعمرة لله، فإن أحصرتم فما استيسر من الهدي، ولا تحلقوا رؤوسكم حتى يبلغ الهدي محله، فمن كان منكم مريضا أو به أذى من رأسه ففدية من صيام أو صدقة أو نسك، فإذا أمنتم فمن تمتع بالعمرة إلى الحج فما استيسر من الهدي، فمن لم يجد فصيام 3 أيام في الحج و7 إذا رجعتم، تلك 10 كاملة، ذلك لمن لم يكن أهله حاضر المسجد الحرام. واتقوا الله واعلموا أن الله شديد العقاب. الحج أشهر معلومات، فمن فرض فيهن الحج فلا رفث ولا فسوق ولا جدال في الحج، وما تفعلوا من خير يعلمه الله، وتزودوا فإن خير الزاد التقوى، واتقون يا أولي الألباب. صدق الله العظيم.
جزاك الله خير ما شاء الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد. Alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has gathered us here today, and most of you may be traveling very soon inshallah to the holy lands of Makkah al-Mukarramah and Madinah al-Munawwarah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make your journey easy. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept your journey and make all from now till the day you come back also, every step of the way. May Allah support you and help you, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala take us all again and again to his blessed home and to the blessed city of his beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So as anything in life, whenever we want to do something, we want to make sure we achieve and we do it in the best way possible. So alhamdulillah, you've come today. Today we're going to have a quick overview of both your journey to Makkah and your journey to Medina. And there are 2 aspects to that. So you may have seen I've titled this the spiritual journey. So it's not any old journey that we are undertaking. This is a spiritual journey. And the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already written for us to go to his blessed lands, this is a sign that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already intended to give us his forgiveness and to shower us in his mercy inshallah. So first of all, we'll go through the practical and spiritual understanding of Ihram, the fiqh behind it and the rulings. What does it mean? It's not just the clothing, but also the state of Ihram. Thereafter, we look at the actual step-by-step guide to Umrah, what you have to do, any guidance for that, and also some logistics about that. And then some other tips about visiting Makkah al-Mukarramah. Thereafter, we'll move on to visiting Madinah al-Munawwarah and what to do there, the virtues of visiting there and visiting the city of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And whilst there, then also visiting and sending our salat and salam to our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And thereafter, we'll conclude the session with some top tips, some landmarks, and then we'll have a little chat also about the different types of visas that we can apply for and any other logistics that we have. And finally, inshallah, we will have our Q&A, our frequently asked questions also. If you've noticed around the masjid also, on all the pillars, we have got a QR code stuck there. Also upstairs for the sisters on the next to the screen, you will see there is a poster that looks like this. So throughout the session, there is anything that you want me to discuss, or you feel that I've either not answered what you want to know, or there was something that you want more clarity on, instead of us having to post throughout the session, if you just post your questions on the QR code there, and at the end, inshallah, I can see what, as you came in, some people have already started posting their questions. Inshallah, at the end, we will go through all of the questions, inshallah, and I will try and answer as many of those as I can to the best of my ability, inshallah. So without further ado, inshallah, we'll start. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In a nutshell, we've got three parts to this. We've got Ihram, we've got Umrah, and we've got our visit to the beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his city. And when you're visiting the holy lands of Makkah and Medina, it's not just about the step-by-step guide of how to do what we're going to do. It's not just about the fiqh behind or the logistics behind, but also, like I said at the start, we have to understand this is a spiritual pilgrimage. And for that, we need to, before we go, we need to make sure that we've got the right intention in mind. So it's not just any old holiday that we're going on. We're going on a spiritual pilgrimage, and we are going to try and achieve, number one, the forgiveness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number two, this is a very unique opportunity for us to reconnect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with our Creator. This will be a very effective spirituality boost for all of us. And also this journey that we are undertaking, we need to have the intention from before we go, that this journey we are going in the footsteps of our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is something that he did, which is why we also are going to undertake this journey. Now, before we go, make sure we are ready both physically and spiritually also. So like I said, have we made the right intention? Am I psychologically prepared? Like I mentioned, it's not a holiday that we are going on. This is a spiritual pilgrimage. And when you go on any spiritual journey, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring about instances to test us. Our nafs will be tested. Our temper will be tested. Our patience will be tested. Now, if I have a 5-star holiday I've booked to the Emirates or anywhere else, I've got a holiday resort and I'm going and I'm not getting what I have paid for, the customer service that I am trying to get, I've not got that, then you have a chance to, maybe try and argue with them, try and make sure you get what you paid for. On this journey to Makkah and Medina, there are going to be instances where our patience will be tested. Now, we should not react the way we would anywhere else. Because remember, we're going to be in the state of Ihram, first of all. Number two, this is a spiritual journey. This is a pilgrimage. Now, for that, we will have to have and practice a lot of restraint, both on our patience, on our temper. We're going to be surrounded by people who we may not be comfortable being around. We may not, this is for many of us, this will be the first time where we are going to be, our personal space is going to be intruded. You're going to be in Tawaf and someone's going to be extremely close to you. How do you react in that moment when you're in front of the Kaaba? So this is going to be really a test for us from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for us to pass that test also. So we need to be prepared for that. And I'm mentioning this at the start, so it doesn't, otherwise we can go through the whole thing and you're going to get there and you're not going to have a pleasant experience because you weren't prepared. So these things we need to also bear in mind. Number four, make a dua list. Like I said, this is a spiritual journey, and various instances on this journey, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to answer whatever we ask for. So from now, before we go, get a pen and paper or go on your notes app on your phone, make a list. What do I want from Allah? What do I want Allah to give me? Whether it's for me, my family, for our future in this world, for our hereafter, for our progenies to come afterwards, and then also not forgetting the ummah of our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam also. So make a dua list. These are all the things that I want to ask from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this is what I want. And number five, this is not just a time off. So there are other aspects of worship that we can do. So maybe make a plan. For example, maybe I'm going to try and complete the one Quran in Makkah, one in Medina if possible. That would be an optimum goal that we can try and achieve. If not, then at least maybe set aside, okay, I'm in Makkah, I'm going to try and read this much Quran, and in Medina this much. So from now, you've got some goals to work towards. So you're not wasting your time while you're there. And then, as we're going to visit the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for us to prepare spiritually, let us increase in our dhikr, our remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our adhkar. And similarly, we are going to visit Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam city and his grave. For that also, let us increase from now in sending our salat and salam and our durood sharif on Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And lastly, on this journey, only pack the bare essentials. Don't overpack. Many people overthink and they pack so much, and then when you get there, you realize you've only used a quarter of your suitcase. And now you want to buy some dates, you want to buy all these things, and you want to bring those things back, and you're struggling for space in your suitcase. So pack the bare essentials. So to help you, I have gathered over here 21 things that I think are essential. Other than this, I don't think there'll be anything you need for this journey. And throughout this presentation, any slides you want to take a picture of, anything, feel free to take a picture of the slides. If that will help you remember. So you've got also a note of that. So first of all, obviously, don't forget your passport. One of my friends last year in Ramadan, when he was going for Umrah, he got all the way to Manchester Airport and he realized he forgot his passport. So it does happen. Sometimes we think it's common sense, but some people do forget. So make sure you don't forget your passport, your valuables. You don't really need paper copies of your visa because they don't really ask for it. But sometimes technology can fail, so it's better to be safe and maybe have a paper copy of your visa. For males, you're going to need your ihram belt. For females, we'll look at what that means when you have the ihram belt, and then also we have the ihram niqab. We'll look at that also. Then you want to pack basically some loose jubbas and abayas. It is a hot climate that you're going. You don't want to wear really something that you're going to struggle with in the heat. Very important, you need comfortable footwear because there is a lot of walking that you will have to do. A lot, especially in Makkah Mukarramah right now, you will have to do a lot of walking. So you need comfortable footwear. And then when you're in Ihram also, there's specific footwear. We'll look at that also. So breathable footwear, maybe it might be a good idea to have a light, very cheap drawstring shoe bags. When you go in the masjid, your shoes don't go missing. They're with you at all times. You want comfortable sunnah clothing. You might want a tasbih or a tasbih counter. We have something called a 7-beat tasbih that reminds you of how many rounds of tawaf you've done. When you get to tawaf, I'll go through that. You might want a lightweight travel prayer mat. And then as you're traveling, some people might like to have a little travel wudu jug or istinja jug that you can use. It is a hot country. You might want to take your sunglasses. You might want some safety pins for your ihram. And then you might want a pouch or a side bag for any valuables. I do recommend to wear, even if it's just some very cheap socks, that even if they rip, you don't mind throwing them away. So you get some socks, because when you're walking on marble, that will affect your feet. So to protect your feet, should you wish to wear light socks, then that is also something that you can get. And then you're going to need unscented toiletries for ihram. When you go through the rules of ihram, you'll understand why and what I mean by that. And lastly, it is a spiritual journey. You might want to take some booklets, some books of kitabs, or some books of du'as with you on this journey, so that will help you also, inshallah. We'll start with a hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Perform Hajj and Umrah one after the other, for surely they remove poverty and sins, just as a furnace removes the dirt of iron, gold, and silver." Narrated by Imam At-Tirmidhi and Imam An-Nasa'i. So performing Umrah one after the other, one after the other, one after the other. Another hadith says that one Umrah to another Umrah, any sins that we do in between is forgiven. And many people think, should I be spending this money and going for Umrah? Rasulullah has promised that you go for Umrah, that will eradicate poverty in your life. So if you're struggling, you're struggling to make ends meet, maybe go for Umrah and see how Allah will bring the barakah in your life. I went last year in Ramadan, and subhanAllah, the amount of money that we spent on our journey and our spending in Ramadan, when I came back after Ramadan, within 1 month, all of that, subhanAllah, came back. Now how that comes, that's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you'll notice when you come back, subhanAllah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already given me back and more. So that's the blessing of visiting the holy lands of Makkah and Mukarramah. So have these also intentions in mind. So before we go, some virtues. Like I mentioned, an Umrah is an expiation for the sins committed between it and the previous Umrah. Number 2, for those of you that do get the opportunity to travel in Ramadan, an Umrah in Ramadan, Rasulullah said, "Umratun fi Ramadan ka hajjatin ma'i." That performing Umrah in Ramadan is like performing Hajj with me. Can you imagine the reward the person will get? What would be the quality of their Hajj if they performed Hajj with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? We can get maybe an aspect or a little iota of that just by performing Umrah in Ramadan. May Allah take us all. And lastly, the performers of Hajj and Umrah, they are deputations of Allah. If they call to Him, He answers. If they seek His forgiveness, then He forgives them. So that's what we're going for. We're going to get our du'as answered. We're going to get forgiven by Allah. We're really going to reconnect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What is Umrah? Umrah is sometimes known as a minor Hajj or the lesser pilgrimage. It's a sunnah. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam performed Umrah 4 times in his life. And Umrah can be performed throughout the year except for the 5 days of Hajj. The 5 days of Hajj is only and specifically a non-resident of Makkah can only perform Hajj in those days. So you can perform Umrah in those days for a non-resident of Makkah al-Mukarramah. So before we go, like I said, I think before we look at the step by step and the fiqh behind it, I think it's important we know what we should be like in terms of our conduct, what adab, our etiquette should be like before we go. So like I said, I'm repeating this again, it is not a holiday that we are going on, so we should not be wasting our time. And for that, it may be a good idea to strategically plan a timetable. So our days that we are there, we want to revolve those days around worship, not around shopping, not around just spending time in the hotel because Allah blesses us with money and we've got a really nice hotel with a view of the Kaaba and we're just going to enjoy some coffee there. No, our time there is we're going to revolve our time around worship. And every moment that we are there is a precious moment. Du'as were accepted at various places. Those places that we are walking on, those blocks of lands that we are walking on, those are sacred places. And on those places also du'as are going to be accepted. Number two, let us try and make this an unplugged pilgrimage. What I mean by that is, we see many people go for Umrah, go for Hajj, but their entire journey is spent with their phone out, capturing the moment. Let your mind and your heart be the greatest memory. Live in the moment. Anywhere else we go, mashallah, we might want to record our memories, wherever. In this moment, let us try and be unplugged. It will be hard because for certain things, like when you get to Medina, you're going to ask about how to get a booking for the Rawdah on the Nusuk app. So for certain things, you'll need it. Keep it to the bare necessities. Maybe pick a time. For this time, okay, I will use my phone, but I want to make this a unplugged pilgrimage so that we can make the most of that, inshallah, and really reconnect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, like I said, avoid taking any unnecessary photos or videos. I'm not going to say it's halal or haram, but really think of the sacredness of this place. Is it appropriate for me to right now, in this manner, take a phone out, take a selfie standing in front of the Kaaba? Is this really respectful of the Kaaba? Whether it's halal and haram, we've got mufti that will give us an answer for that. But really think of it like this. That is it respectful for the Kaaba, for the place that I am standing next to? And inshallah, that will give you your own answer. So, let us uphold the sanctity of the holy sites. Number three, like I mentioned at the start, we will have to control ourselves. We will have to practice resilience. We will have to practice trying to restrain our temper. And also, this is a good opportunity to practice on the sunnah of the Sahaba, and that is something called ithar. The Sahaba will always give priority to everybody else. Normally, we're hungry, you want to go first in the queue. Hey, I'm in Ihram, I'm in Umrah. Okay, I'll let someone else go in front of me, it's fine. You got a chance to go near the Hajar Aswad or near the Kaaba, and then someone comes and shoves and pushes. Instead of you trying to shove and push them back, let them go, it's fine. Allah will give you double the reward. That is really a test of our true sincerity and our intention. So like I said, we will have to withhold our anger and our temper, and just remember, make this hadith your code of conduct. And the hadith is very simple. Man samata naja. 3 words. Man samata naja. Whoever remains silent has been saved. Don't say anything. No matter what they say, what they do, just remain silent. Control yourself. The moment you utter something, you say something, that could be you're losing all the rewards of your ihram, of your umrah, all the blessings that you've achieved, the whole journey you've made to there. You're not going there to lose out, you're going there to gain. So simple. Remember this. Man samata naja. Whoever remains silent has been saved. If that is your code of conduct, inshallah, you will have a very fruitful journey. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will really give you the benefits of that journey, inshallah. And lastly, some people get very excited. When they go there, they say, oh, I'm going to do tawaf after every single salah, and I'm going to do one umrah every single day. And then they do that for 2 days, and then by the third day, they flat out. By the time they get to Medina, they can't come out of the hotel. They're really ill because all the energy they went in the first 2 days, they got really excited. That's not what Allah wants from us. So, lasting worship is the goal. Be steadfast. Take it in small steps. Maybe first day, do one tawaf, then you realize what the logistics are about Masjid Al-Haram. If I go from this entrance, I'm going to have to come out this exit. I'm going to have to walk this much. I'm going to be this tired. Maybe you might be too busy to do tawaf at this time. So, and then slowly, once you get used to it, 1 or 2 days there, you're used to things around you now. On the third day, maybe try and increase it, 1 more tawaf, additional tawaf. And then next day, maybe another additional tawaf. As much as you can, but don't overdo it. Yeah. So the main thing is steadfast worship. Allah wants something that is constant and continuous. And then in slow, steady steps, you can increase, inshallah. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the actual practical rulings of Ihram and what it's about. So first of all, Umrah is split up into 4 parts. For Umrah, we have number 1, your Ihram. Ihram is also made up of 3 things. 1 is the dress, 1 is the intention, and 1 is the Talbiyah. We're going to go through this in detail. Number 2, then after that, we're going to look at Tawaf, the step-by-step guide of how to do Tawaf, what are the rulings of Tawaf. Number 3, then we will go to Sa'i, which is when you go between Safa and Marwa. We'll look at that also. And lastly, our Umrah will be concluded when we've cut our hair, and we'll look at the rules of that also. So these are the 4 areas we're going to cover now. First of all, we're going to look at Ihram in detail as to what Ihram is. So Ihram is not simply just the clothing that we wear. Those 2 white clothes that men wear, that is not Ihram. That is just a garment. I can wear that on 60 Gamal Road. That doesn't mean I'm in the state of Ihram. So what actually gets you in the state of Ihram is the intention and the Talbiyah that you're going to make. And we're going to look at that. So Ihram means you are going to enter a certain state. Comes from the word haram, where certain things normally are halal for you. The moment you're in the state of Ihram, those things are now haram for you. Just as soon as you say you're labbaik, all of these things are now impermissible. So entering the Ihram and exiting the Ihram, how does that work? First of all, we have the Ihram clothing. So before you wear your Ihram clothing, whether that be, if you're going to Makkah first, these steps you might want to take at home. So for example, you will want to have a ghusl, you might want to cut your nails, or do any personal hygiene, any shaving that you need to do, any preparation you need to do, any creams that you need to apply, all of those things, you want to do that before you actually wear the clothing of Ihram. And then you wear your clothing. You wear the two garments, and then once you've worn it, it doesn't mean that you're already in the state of Ihram. You've just worn the clothing. You can still do all of those things until number 2 and number 3 happen. So number 1, you're wearing the clothing of Ihram. Number 2, then you're going to make an intention. How do you do that? There's 2 ways you could do that. First of all, you can pray 2 rakats. That could be done at home, that could be done at the airport, or that could be in the aeroplane. If you're going via Saudi Airlines, for example, you're going direct and you're landing in Jeddah, then as long as number 2 and number 3 are done before the miqat, and we're going to look at what that means very shortly, then that is okay. So number 2 and number 3, the niyyah, the intention, that could be, it's sunnah to read those 2 rakats, sunnah to read Surah Al-Kafirun and Surah Ikhlas, and thereafter then you're still not in the state of Ihram until you say the Talbiyah, and that is labbaik. So what I recommend people is, if you need to do something, then maybe you might want to delay your Talbiyah. So for example, wear your Ihram, pray your 2 rakats, you made your intention, you said to Allah, oh Allah, I'm intending to do Umrah, and then you're on the aeroplane, and then you might want to delay your Talbiyah until you're approaching the miqat. And normally most Arab country airlines will, when they are approaching Saudi Arabia, they will make an announcement, we are now approaching the miqat. As soon as they make that announcement, then we must make sure that we have said the Talbiyah, we have said labbaik straight away. And the moment we say labbaik, the first word, labbaik Allahumma labbaik, we are now in the state of Ihram. So from now, all the things that are now impermissible. In the meantime, if you do have any questions about what we've talked about so far, you can scan the QR code. There are a few questions that have come through. So just a quick summary of what I've mentioned so far. Number 1, we have the clothing of Ihram. So like I said, you do your personal hygiene, you get ready, you have a shower, put your clothing of Ihram on. We're gonna very shortly also have a demonstration about how to do that also. So don't worry if you've never worn Ihram before and you're really anxious about how to wear your Ihram. Number 2 is we're gonna make the intention before we get to the Miqat boundary. Very shortly I will show you a map of what the Miqat boundary is and what that means. And thereafter, number 3, we are gonna say the Talbiyah, the labbaik. And when we say the labbaik, that means you are now entered into the state of Ihram. So these are the 3 steps of entering Ihram. 1, clothing, 2, niyyah, and 3, and if you see at the bottom over here, it says number 2 and number 3 are the real Ihram. So the intention, and then the Talbiyah is what is actually gets you in the state of Ihram. Now, the clothing of Ihram, there are some rules about that. So first of all, we'll look at, because it's easy and simple, we'll go through the what are the requirements for females. and then thereafter we'll go through the ihram for males. So first of all, the ihram clothing for females. A woman's ihram is basically just a modest abaya, jilbab, khimar, burqa. So it's anything that from which nothing can be seen except her face, hands, and feet, and is devoid of any adornment. They can wear any footwear. So for males, we have very specific rulings. We're going to go through that very shortly. For females, they can wear socks if they want. They can wear trainers or pumps or any other footwear they want. Any breathable footwear. They can wear any footwear they want. Now, there are two things really they can't. Number one is that they cannot have anything directly sitting on their face. That is the ruling for in terms of clothing for females. Other than that, they can wear anything. And so those sisters that do practice wearing the veil in front of their non-maharim, then for them what they normally do, they have something called a hajj niqab or a ihram niqab. So which is basically it's a cap, and on top of the cap then the veil sits. So the veil is not sitting directly on the face. So for females, the rule is that they can't have anything directly sitting on the face. If it's hanging from in front, that is absolutely fine. So I have there is a little image over here on the right hand side of what a hajj niqab sometimes look like. Some sisters, what they do, they just get a sun cap or a normal cap, and they just get a long dupatta or a long hijab, and they just drape it on top so that the face cannot be seen, but it's not sat on their face. But in ihram, in the ihram for females, the only rule is that they can't have anything sitting on their face. For males, now we'll start off with the footwear first, and then we'll look at, so we'll solve the rules of the ihram for males, then we'll look at the footwear. First of all, for males, we have two pure, clean, unstitched garments. So the actual garment of ihram can't be stitched. Many people say, oh, if I wear a belt, the belt has got stitching on it, or I might wear a pouch that's got stitching on it, that's fine. The only thing that cannot be stitched are the two garments of ihram. Now, it's recommended to have a new set of ihram, but doesn't mean that if you've already got ihram, you have to then go and buy a new one. No, just before you go, just re-wash it, put it in the washing machine and wash it, and you can wear that again. The purpose of that is to try and make sure that the garments we're wearing is also of the optimum level of purity, because we're also trying to achieve internal purity, so the internal and external can match. So therefore, it's recommended to either get new garments, or if you've already got some, then put them in the wash just before you wear them, and then you can wear them, inshallah. Other than the two garments of ihram for males, there is nothing else that you are allowed to wear. That means no t-shirts inside, no underwear, no socks, none of that. You can only wear these two garments. Now for that, some people get anxious. How do I ensure that my ihram stays and it does not fall off? So some people like to use a ihram belt, for example. I'll just show you what one of those may look like. So I've got my two garments of ihram here, and then I have a belt. So this is one type of a belt. You have different types of belts. This is just one example of one that I found. And so when I have the ihram on, then I can just tie it on. You can even just wear a normal belt. That will ensure that the bottom layer will not fall off. So number one, you can use a belt to hold the bottom layer. And then some people like to use some safety pins. So wherever you feel that your ihram may fall off, or you want more security, you want more stability, make sure that your ihram does not fall off, you can use some ihram safety pins also. That is also allowed. Now, for the females, the rule was very simple. They cannot have anything sitting on their face. For males, however, both the head and the face cannot be covered. And we see some people, they might be, maybe they want to pray Jumu'ah Salah in the Mataf, or they want to pray Dhuhr Salah in the Mataf, and it's really hot and they're struggling in the sunshine, and then you see they get the ihram and they put it on top of their head. That is a violation of ihram. And if you violate any of the rules of ihram, then there are very strict penalties of that, and we will look at what those are very shortly also. So remember, you cannot have anything sitting on your head, no hats, nothing directly sitting on your head. So you can have an umbrella or something high up that is maybe covering your head from the heat, but you can't have anything sitting on your head. And same way, you cannot have anything on your face directly. And if you do cover your head or your face, there will be a penalty to pay for violating the rules of ihram. Then thereafter also for females, they could wear socks, they could wear footwear. For males, there are very specific, strict rulings as to what footwear we can wear. So I'm going to go through that in slightly detail now. So the ruling for footwear in ihram is that you cannot cover an area of your foot called the Ka'b. Now the Ka'b, there are two perspectives of what the word Ka'b means. According to some schools of fiqh, the Ka'b literally just means the ankle. However, according to the Hanafi school of thought, the student of Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Shaybani, alongside being a master of fiqh and hadith, he was also a master of the Arabic language. Imam Shafi'i would say about him, he was also the teacher of Imam Shafi'i. Imam Shafi'i would say about him that when he used to explain the words of the Quran, It was as though the Quran was revealed to him because how well he knew the meaning of the words. So he was a master of Arabic language. And he gave a very specific area or very specific bone on our foot, which is what the Ka'b refers to. So I've got a dissection of the bones in the foot there. I'm not a biology teacher or a doctor, so I may mispronounce some of those, but the area is either referred to as the navicular or the medial cuneiform. I hope I pronounced that correctly. So those two bones are what is referred to as the Ka'b, where I've put that red circle on the bone. That area has to be left open. Now for that, the most effective way or safest way to ensure that that bone is open is you wear something called flip-flops. Those, you have 2 strings on your slipper. Now sometimes some people find that irritating because it's going to rub against your toes, so you might want to get some comfortable ones, because in the state of Ihram you have to ensure that that bone is uncovered. Now you see this picture over here, where the red and black line is, just the arch where the line is sitting on, that's the bone on your foot. So really anything above that has to be exposed. Anything below that can be covered. So for example, if for example this area over here, you might have for example, you might have they don't have this anymore. There was a company called Vibram. They used to sell something called 5 fingers. Basically, it's like a shoe that comes down till here, and it's like your toes. It's like those socks you get with your toes. So because this area would be open, you can wear that. Similarly, certain low-cut socks. Those low-cut socks you get, invisible socks, some people call them. If those socks are in such a way where you can ensure this entire region is going to be exposed at all times, it may be okay to wear that. But like I said, the safest option is just wear flip-flops, and after your Umrah is done, you can get any footwear you want and you can wear those footwear. Just for the sake of Umrah, just try and ensure that you are not covering that region. The safest footwear to wear is to wear flip-flops. So therefore you can't wear trainers, you can't wear any old sandals or any old sliders. Sometimes you might have certain sandals where this area is open, but then you might have something over here like a strap on your ankle. That will also violate the ruling of the Ihram. So therefore that is also won't be permissible to wear in the state of Ihram. So that is a summary of what you can wear in terms of your footwear. Like I said, any of these things you want some further explanation or you have a question about it, do post it on the QR code and we will go through those at the end, inshallah. So that was the rules of the clothing for Ihram. That's just number 1 of 3. Now we need to enter the state of Ihram. For that, we've made our intention. Those 2 rakats could have been prayed in Leicester or wherever else. But the main thing is our Talbiyah, our Labbaik. So what is Talbiyah? What is Labbaik? We've all heard people when they go for Hajj or for Umrah, they say the Labbaik, Labbaik, Allahumma Labbaik, Labbaik la sharika laka Labbaik, innal hamda wal ni'mata laka wal mulk, la sharika laka Labbaik. This Labbaik or this Talbiyah is an answer of a call. Some of you may remember when you were in madrasa, for those of you that are still in madrasa, when the register happens, normally you say Labbaik for your name. So what is Labbaik? Is answering the call. Now whose call is answering? There are 3 opinions given by the ulama. Number 1, it's the call of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Ibrahim alayhi salam was built, when he built the Kaaba, he gave the call, come to the house of Allah and do tawaf of the house of Allah, and he gave that call. Until today, thousands of years later, we are now still answering the call of Ibrahim alayhi salam. That is also his miracle. Number 2, we're answering the call of Allah himself. So we have Labbaik, Allahumma Labbaik. So you're answering the call of Allah himself. Allah is inviting us to his house. We're answering his call, and we are coming by saying Labbaik, Allahumma Labbaik. And lastly, there is a lengthy hadith in which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam gives an example of a slave of Allah who invites to his house, and it's a very lengthy hadith. And in that hadith, he is given an example of himself where he is the inviter to the house of Allah. So therefore, the answer of the call is also answering the call of our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we can bear these 3 things in mind when we are saying our Talbiyah, our Labbaik. Now, it's not just for entering the state of Ihram. Really, from that moment until our Umrah is complete, this is something that we should really be frequenting. So for example, once we land in Jeddah, we're on the airplane. So when I went to Ramadan, for example, and when we were on the aircraft, and as soon as the captain announced we are now approaching the Miqat boundary, so some of us got together, we started saying Labbaik, and surely before you know it, the entire aircraft was saying Labbaik. From that moment till we landed, we did not hear any announcements of the pilot. So when the pilot said, cabin crew, get ready for landing, or all of those things, we didn't hear anything, because until the plane hit the runway, that's when we realized we've landed, because the entire aircraft was in Labbaik. Then you get into the bus that takes you to the terminal, you're saying Labbaik. Then you go through passport control, you're saying Labbaik. You then get into your vehicle of however that may be. You get into Makkah al-Mukarramah. You're going through the streets of Makkah, the alleys of Makkah. You see the mountains of Makkah. Each street, each road, in each valley, you're saying Labbaik, Allahumma Labbaik, Labbaik, La Sharika Laka Labbaik. This will really get you in that motivated. Spiritually, you feel like now you are actually at a pilgrimage. So don't waste your time in that moment. And it's a really, really nice feeling when you see all people from different cultures and backgrounds, everyone together, and everyone in one voice is saying Labbaik together. It's really, really part of that wholesome moment of your journey to the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So like I said, every valley, every street, if there any salah you pray in between, after every salah also, you should, loudly say Labbaik, Allahumma Labbaik. And so this was, in a nutshell, the 6 steps we took to enter into the state of Ihram. Number 1, we did wudu or ghusl. Then we did any self-care we need. Number 3, we prayed our 2 rakats. Number 4, we got changed into the clothing for ihram for males. Number 5, we made our niyyah. There's a sunnah dua there should you wish to read it. Allahumma inni uridu al-umrah fayassirha li wa taqabbalha minni. Oh Allah, I intend for umrah, make it easy for me and accept it from me. You can say in English also, you can say in any other language you want, or you don't even have to utter it. You can just think of that as you're making your niyyah, and your niyyah will be done. And number 6, that is what really got us into the state of ihram, was the talbiyah. Now, like I said, in the state of ihram, there are now some prohibitions. So there are 7 things over here that are prohibited in the state of ihram. And if we do violate any of these, then we will have to give a penalty. There are 2 penalties. For some, there is a smaller penalty where you have to give a fine. That fine is equivalent to what we give normally for Sadaqatul Fitr and Eid al-Fitr. Normally between £3 to £6, depending on the what type of Sadaqatul Fitr you're giving. That is for each small violation that you make in the state of Ihram. Any major violations, you will have to then slaughter a sheep in the boundary of the Haram, and the meat of that sheep also has to be distributed in the boundary of Haram. How do you do that also? I'm going to explain that very shortly, but these are the 7 prohibitions in Ihram. If you want more specific details on that QR code on our website, hajjumrahessentials.co.uk, I've got a whole list of all those things that class as a minor violation and all those things as a major violation. And at the end of the major violations, there is a link to a local charity in Makkah al-Mukarramah. I'll share the website at the end. It's called Adahi. And if you can just go on their website and say, for example, I made 1 major violation, you can make the payment on their website. They will then slaughter the sheep within the Haram boundary and distribute it to those that are deserving of it in the Haram boundary also. So that makes life easier for us. That's where we're going to go to look for sheep, and then where we're going to slaughter it, how we're going to make sure it gets distributed. So there is a charity, local charity there in Makkah that does that for us, specifically for people that go for Hajj and Umrah and they may make some violations. So number 1, indulging, embracing and talking about marital relations, all of those in the state of Ihram is forbidden. Number 2, it should be normal anyway, but we should know that indulging any sinful activity. So that also includes whilst you're on the aircraft, we said our labbaik, and for example, now you're on the way to Makkah, you should really not be putting a movie on, and maybe you're in the state of Ihram, you're going for Umrah. Is that really any sinful activity that we are doing should not happen now we are in the state of Ihram. Number 3, hunting, killing animals and also indicating towards it. So for example, it doesn't happen anymore. Back in the days when, especially in Makkah, some of the hotels used to have a lot of rodents or a lot of other creatures that you may find in your hotel room. Alhamdulillah, now the standards are much more higher. But those of you that have been before may remember that there are certain animals that may creep up in your hotel room. Now, if you're in the state of the Ihram and you've called, for example, one of the workers of the hotel, then if you're in the state of the Ihram, you cannot directly point at the animal and say, could you kill that or remove that for me? Because if you point towards it, so you can call them and say, there is an animal, but don't point towards it, let them find it. But you're not going to come to that stage anyway. You're not going to go hunting anyway. So this was really before, when people would come across these situations, even indicating towards the animal would be a violation of the Ihram. Number 4, using any scented perfume products. So that means no soap, no shower gel, no sanitizer, no creams, all these things that contain some elements of a scent in it, you cannot use them. So therefore, you do have companies that have produced and manufactured soaps and creams that are, for example, fragrance-free. Those are suitable for use in Ihram. Similarly, you might find water wipes or fragrance-free wipes. You can use those. But anything that contains a scent or a fragrance or a soap, so if you have a liquid soap that is fragrance-free, then you can use those. Otherwise, you cannot use any other type of soap. So for example, if you're stopping at transit at a different airport and you're hungry, you had some food and then you went to the toilet to wash your hands, and naturally, when you go to the toilet, you're going to use some soap. make sure you don't do that, because that would be an automatic violation of Ihram. So you are not allowed to use any scented products. Number 5, removing any hair and nails. That includes whether it's shaving, plucking, clipping, or any other method of removing any hair or nails is forbidden in the state of Ihram. If you do, depending on what you do, how much you do, you can look at that on the QR code as to what the violations are. And we'll go through the questions at the end, inshallah. So if it's not already put, we will go through that as well. If hair is removed, that will also violate your Ihram. You will have to pay one of the 2 penalties. Number 6, wearing stitched clothing for males, and for females covering the face, for males covering the head, face, and also the Ka'b region of the foot. This also is a violation of Ihram. We have to ensure that we don't do that whilst in the state of Ihram. And lastly, number 7, very, very important, harming, abusing, insulting, or offending, or arguing with any Muslim. This should not happen in the state of Ihram. Like I said, we are going to be tested. Our temper, our patience will be tested. Do not start arguing, fighting, bickering, especially in the state of Ihram. That is also a violation of Ihram. Okay, so all of these things, when do they start? I mentioned quite a few times at the start something called Miqat. We have something called a boundary, which is the Miqat, which is we have to have entered into the state of Ihram before this boundary. These are designated places that Rasulullah ﷺ had assigned, where a pilgrim can only, also a non-citizen of Makkah that is destined for Makkah can only pass in the state of Ihram. So if you're going Medina first, it doesn't matter. Even if you go through this boundary, if your first destination is Makkah, it's not Makkah, it's Medina, or you might be staying 2-3 nights in Jeddah, for example, or anywhere else. Even if you cross over the Miqat region, you don't need to be in Ihram. However, if your first destination is Makkah, you cannot enter this boundary unless you're in the state of Ihram. That means your labbaik, your number 3 of your Ihram, has to be done before this boundary or at the boundary. Those that are landing at Jeddah airport from UK or from the West, normally about 15-20 minutes before you get towards Jeddah, that is where the Miqat boundary starts. But most airlines, all Arab airlines will announce it. So unless you're going on British Airways, they may not. But all other airlines, they will announce you are now approaching Miqat boundary, so you will know. That's if you're going Makkah first and you're landing at Jeddah airport. So what is the boundary of Miqat? We have Makkah there, we have Jeddah there, that is already in the boundary. We are approaching from the west. Our boundary is from Juhfa, which is quite north. It's really in between Makkah and Medina. It's about 183 kilometers from Makkah. That is the boundary that we have to ensure we're in the state of Ihram from. Those of you that are going Medina first, we'll look at where Dhul Hulayfa is, and it's sunnah to do your Ihram from Dhul Hulayfa. But even if you do it from Medina, it's actually just about 15 minutes in a taxi from Masjid Nabawi, so it's not really far. And if you're going by train, when we get to that part, I'll explain that also. If you're coming from the eastern side, so for example, you've got a stopover in Qatar, for example, or you're coming on Gulf Air, you're stopping off in Bahrain, then your Miqat will be called That Irq, which is 94 kilometers from Makkah. Then you have Qarn al-Manazil, those that are coming from the far east, people coming from India, Pakistan, or coming from Malaysia, Indonesia, that side of the world, that will be their Miqat. And those coming from the south, whether that be Yemen, or that can also mean people coming from Africa, from southern Africa, their Miqat will be a place called Yalamlam, which is about 92 kilometers before Makkah. So really, after Madinah Munawwarah, the second furthest Miqat is really our Miqat, which is Juhfa. And like I said, in an aircraft, it's about 15 to 20 minutes before you get to Jeddah. So you will find out about that also. If you're doing Umrah from Madinah Munawwarah, then you will go to a masjid that is called Masjid al-Miqat or Abar Ali. It's a place called Dhul Hulayfa. It's the Prophet ﷺ, when he did Umrah, he went there first, put his Ihram on there. That's where he did his niyyah, he prayed his 2 rakats, and that's where he started his Talbiyah from. And so even if you're going by train, the train station is on the east of Masjid Nabawi, and Dhul Hulayfa is on the west of Masjid Nabawi. So it might be a good idea to maybe 2-3 hours before you check out from your hotel, just take a taxi, go to Dhul Hulayfa, pray your 2 rakats there, so you get the reward of the sunnah also. Come back to your hotel, check out, and then go towards the train station, and then you could come to Makkah from there, inshallah. If you're coming by car or coach, if you're coming by car or taxi, you can request the taxi driver, can you stop at Dhul Hulayfa, let us pay 2 rakats first, and then we'll carry on to Makkah. And there's no reason why they should say no, inshallah. Whilst you're in Makkah al-Mukarramah, if you want to do another Ihram, you want to do another Umrah, you want to get into the state of Ihram also, what do you need to do? You have to leave the Haram boundary. And we're going to look at that on the next slide. But the Haram boundary, on the north of the Haram boundary, we have a place called Tan'im. There is a masjid there called Masjid Aisha. This is where during Hajj, the Prophet ﷺ sent his wife Aisha with her brother Abdul Rahman. They went there to Tan'im and she prayed her 2 rakats there. She got into Ihram from there in the days of Hajj. That's why it's called Masjid Aisha. So if you're going for Umrah, you just say Tan'im or you say Masjid Aisha to a taxi driver and they will take you. There are also certain buses from certain places that take you for a couple of riyal if you're okay to go with other people. Okay, so this is the boundary of the Haram. The little white circle in the middle, that is Masjid Al-Haram, the Masjid. The white areas on the right hand side, those are the tents of Mina. Then we have the plain of Arafat beside it, Muzdalifah. All of those things, they all fall under the area of Haram. So if you are going to leave the area of Haram and then come back, then you will need to do a Umrah. So for example, so if you go to the north, you go to Masjid Aisha. When you go there, you will see there is an arch and it says Haram boundary ends here. Another arch that says Haram boundary starts here. So if you are just going there for ziyarah and you're not intending to do another Umrah, just make sure you don't go past the Haram boundary, so you don't need to do another Umrah again. But normally you'll only go there when you want to do, and if you want to do another Umrah also. So that is the boundary of Haram. Now in this boundary of Haram, it's a very sacred place. What we do, we have to be very careful. But also, any act of worship we do in this boundary is multiplied 100,000 times. So this is a very sacred place, a very special place. We can't do any hunting there. We can't clip any plants, or for example, you saw some nice trees or some plants, you want to take a few, or you want to take something from there. That's all forbidden. So it says, when entering the boundaries of Haram, hunting, clipping animals, picking up the lost property of others, and taking it for yourself, you shouldn't do that anyway. All of those things are not permissible in the boundary of Haram. Now, inshallah, we will have a very quick demo on how to tie the Ihram. I will ask Hafiz Hussein to come forward, inshallah, and we'll just have a very quick short demo on how to tie the Ihram. So like we said, we have two garments that are unstitched. Your garments, when you get your Ihram, they're both normally exactly the same size, and there are two ways we could tie this. So first of all, put the Ihram garment behind you. You do the lower garment first. Put the two ends of the garment together. And as you're doing this, you might want to take a bit of a wider step so you're not restricted. Otherwise, if you're going to stand like this and do it, then it's too tight, and then you're going to struggle to walk or sit down. Then you're, okay, I'm in front of everybody. How do I adjust my Ihram? So first of all, put the two ends together and simply just fold it round. And so that's one way you could do it. And thereafter, you have your Ihram belt. You could just simply just wear it around, tie it on top, and then you can fold it over. So if you want to hide your belt, so a lot of Ihram belts have pouches where you can put your valuables in. So you might fold it over like this so it's covered. And that should be enough to make sure it doesn't fall off. So Hafiz Hussein, if you can just walk up and down to make sure it doesn't fall off. So really, he's not took any effort in putting it on. And we can see, mashallah, he's walked comfortably and it's not fallen off. So that should be enough, really. Those people who have a habit or have practiced maybe wearing a loin cloth, a lungi or an izar cloth, those people will be a master at that, so they don't need to really have that much practice. Another way, so that was the first way, we put the two ends together. Second way is you put one side inside first and then put another layer on top. Now for this one, you're going to make sure that you do make take a wider step, because this will really restrict your space. But obviously this one, if you don't put the two ends together, then there is a chance that in the middle, if you're walking fast, you won't right now because the way he folded it. But if you fold it wrong, there's a chance that it can open up. So really, the first way we did is safer. If you're able to do this where you're making a fold inside, so that even if it does go up, it doesn't show, then it's fine. But you've got to make sure that your aura is not exposed. So like I said, don't wait till the last day. From now, even if you got 2-3 weeks till you're going, you got 1 week till you're going, open your Ihram packet. You want to keep it new and it's in a nice packet? No, open it, wear it, make sure you're comfortable. Practice maybe walking up and down the stairs in your house, because you may need to go up some escalators. Practice maybe walking with a rucksack or with your suitcase, so that you're comfortable and ready, so you're not really faffing around in the last minute when you're there, inshallah. Now the second Ihram, the upper garment. So first of all, other than in the state of Tawaf, so in the state of Tawaf, when you look at the rules of Tawaf, we'll go through that. We'll take the right shoulder out. But generally, all the time you're wearing your Ihram, you just basically get the left side, cover it, and then the right side, bring it around. Then you can get someone to tuck it in over here behind if you want, so that ensures it doesn't fall off. A good idea, what a lot of people do is on the left shoulder, they just put a safety pin. That way, if you need to pick up your suitcase, or you need to really do something and you're not really faffing around, making sure you're praying salah and it keeps falling off, you've tucked it in or you put a safety pin here, it's not going to fall off. However, when you're doing tawaf, you will need to expose your right shoulder. When we do the rules of tawaf, we'll do that. So simply just get around, bring it a bit, and then flick it over. And again, should you wish to, tuck it in or put a safety pin so it doesn't fall off. Especially if you're doing tawaf in a busy time or the area around the Hajar al-Aswad and the Maqam Ibrahim, it gets very crowded. And sometimes you might feel like you're getting squashed from both sides and you're trying to make sure your ihram doesn't fall off. You might have your shoe bag as well. You might be holding on to someone so that you might have your family member you're trying to protect. It can get very hectic. So if from beforehand, if you're comfortable with the way you put your ihram, maybe you've tucked it in or you've used a safety pin, that way you're at peace of mind that even with the push and shove, my ihram will not fall off. Because that's the last thing I'm sure we all want. Jazakallah khair. If you want to keep it on, you can keep it on. So like I said, just by wearing it in Leicester doesn't mean he's in the state of ihram. Number 2 and number 3 were the main parts of ihram. I do have a quick diagram here, step-by-step guide, should anyone wish to take a picture of this, of how to tie the lower garment, izar, and how to put the upper garment. So when you're doing ittiba, we're going to look at that when we do the rules of tawaf. You'll take your right shoulder out. Other than that, you'll cover your shoulder also. This is also on our website. So if you want to look on our website, you can also see that there, inshallah. So we've done the rules of ihram. Really, in our step-by-step guide for Umrah, that is only 1/4 of the way now. We've done ihram, we've still got tawaf, we've got sa'i, and we've got cutting of the hair left. So first of all, let's look at getting ready to get to the Kaaba. So the dua that is made upon the first glance of the Kaaba is an accepted dua. So at the beginning, if you remember, I told you to make a dua list. From your dua list, you may want to put a star. This is really the key dua I want to make when I see the Kaaba for the first time. Now for some people, if Allah has given you, blessed you with wealth, and you've managed to secure a room which has a view of the Kaaba, then if you go to check into your hotel and you want to go and see the view and you've seen the Kaaba from your window, that's your first glance. It's not necessarily from the masjid, it's your first glance at the Kaaba live. So make sure that you do not spoil that moment and save it. So don't be tempted to go and open the curtains and see your view. Just do a bit of sabr until you're actually there in front of the Kaaba. And when you get there, when you look at the steps of when you enter Masjid Al-Haram, then what we need to do. So first of all, we enter Makkah, we pray Bismillah, Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah, we're reciting Talbiyah, Labbaik, Allahumma Labbaik, in the coach or in the bus or the taxi, however we're getting to our hotel. And then once we've checked in, freshen up if we need to. A common question asked over here is, if I take my ihram off because I want to have a shower because I've been traveling, is that okay? That is fine. If you take both the garments off, you go in the shower, as long as you do not use liquid soap or soap that contains any scent, any fragrance, you can have a rinse or a shower. It's completely fine. You can remove your ihram garment. If you want to sleep, for example, and you want to remove it, you can also do that. That is fine. That doesn't mean you've broken your ihram. Like I said, these are just clothing. It's not a violation of the state of ihram. The violation only is covering your face with something directly, covering your head something directly, or covering the Ka'b region on your foot that we looked at. So look at what time you arrive. If you've had a long journey, you want to rest for a bit, maybe you might be able to rest. Have a rest, because the steps of Umrah that are coming up are really that they do need a lot of energy. If you want to eat, for example, freshen up. Thereafter, head to Masjid Al-Haram. Now what I mentioned at the beginning, unplugged, remember, we are entering Masjid Al-Haram, we are entering the Holy Kaaba or visiting the Holy Kaaba. This is really our special moment for our dua to be accepted. This is not the moment to take our phone out. We're coming down the escalator and we're going to try to make a reel or a TikTok video of how I came down the escalator and the view of the Kaaba came. Really let your eyes capture that moment. Let your heart and mind capture that moment. And let your heart then cry out to Allah in that moment. If your focus is on your phone and making sure the angle's right, really, one is your intention, what you're doing it for. Number two, that spiritual boost and that feeling you get, you're going to lack out on that. You're going to miss out on that. So really your focus, you want to divert all of your attention to the Kaaba. So now as you're entering Masjid Al-Haram, enter with the right foot and lower your gaze. It will be tempting to look up. You want to see, is the Kaaba there or not? Don't be tempted, wait. Look down, walk slowly, keep going, try and go as close as possible. So you'll go down some escalators, you might go down some steps, and then you realize you might be close to an area that looks like it's the Mataf area. People are coming down. You can feel the sky on top of you. Make sure you're not in someone's way. So you're not on the stairway or you're not on the escalator and I want to make my dua here. The gods are going to come and they're going to yalla and they're going to push you, they're going to get you out of there. And so it's not going to be a very pleasant experience. So you're in the middle of your dua, you're crying and someone just comes and says, yalla ruh, and you're gone. So really don't make sure you're not in anybody's way. Maybe stand to a side, maybe next to a pillar or something, and then slowly look up and then you'll see the Kaaba in front of you. And when you see the Kaaba, it will just hit you. You know, all those photos you saw of the Kaaba, and you are preparing your journey. You came here today, and you made your dua list, and all those mixed emotions and feelings. And then you see the Kaaba, automatically your heart will soften up. Automatically you'll feel that tears are coming to your eyes. Automatically you'll be mesmerized. Now that is the key moment when you're feeling those emotions. The dua you make is the accepted dua. So really make sure that you've got that plan beforehand. What do you want to ask? And if you think that, oh, I won't be able to remember, or I don't know what to ask, even if you just stand there with your hands open, just like a beggar, sometimes they just put their hands open. They don't say, give me £2, give me £3. They just stand there with their hands open. We are beggars at Allah's door. Hands open, just crying. Allah knows what you want in our hearts. Just cry your eyes out. And Allah will give you the best of both, inshallah. That is really a very special moment when you see the Kaaba for the first time in your journey. So look up, say Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah, make your dua, and thereafter then you're going to start your tawaf. You have to have wudu for tawaf. We're going to go through the ruling shortly. You're going to do your 7 rounds of tawaf. You'll read 2 rakats, drink some zamzam, and then your 7 rounds of sa'i, and we'll look at all of those in detail. But before we do that, some key spots around Masjid Al-Haram. So first of all, around the Kaaba, we have an area that is called the Hatim, a semicircle that you may have seen. If you get a chance to go inside, so for sisters, it's after Isha Salah until I think about 2 a.m. And for, I've forgotten the timings, I'll double check again, but I'll tell you that at the end. But that is the timing where they do open. They have started it recently, where before, for the past few years, it's been closed. They've opened it up recently. If you do get a chance to go inside, you can go inside, pay 2 rakats. It's like you're inside the Kaaba. That is actually part of the Kaaba, the original Kaaba built by Ibrahim alayhi salam. So if you're in the Hatim, you are inside the Kaaba. Most of us, maybe Allah opens the doors for us, but most of us may not get a chance in our life to actually go inside the Kaaba. This may be a chance for us to go inside the Kaaba, inshallah. It's exactly the same. It is inside the Kaaba. Number 2, we have the area between the black stone, Hajar al-Aswad, and the door. That area is called Multazam. Any dua that is made there is an accepted dua. That is really a special place. Now, if you're really close and you think, yeah, I've made it, and then you know there are certain other people there, and you're going to have to push and shove to get there, the better you walk away. You walk away and you make dua, Allah will give you the same answer of your dua. But if you're going to push and shove, and you're going to say, I want you, and you might punch 3 people in the process, but you made it, and yes, I finally got it, and I'm going to make dua. You've injured and hurt all those people on the way. There is no use for all of that. Same with the Hajar al-Aswad, the black stone. Many of us may not get a chance to kiss the black stone. Allah has given a substitute for us. When we look at the step-by-step of tawaf, I will explain what that substitute is. Allah has given a substitute. You'll get the same reward. Don't need to fight, push and shove to go and try. So I've been, alhamdulillah, Allah has blessed me to taken me many times to the lands of Makkah and Medina, yet still I have not actually directly managed to kiss the Hajj as well. I've touched it from afar, that's the most I got. I was once very, very close. Me and my brother Muhammad Umar were really close. And I was going to be the next person. And mashallah, some sister came and punched me in the face, and next thing you know, I was gone in the crowd somewhere, and we were long gone. So it's not going, if it doesn't happen, that also is a test. That also is a test of your struggle, for your anger, for your patience. So really just remember what we said at the beginning, that ithar we want. We don't have to get there. Allah's given us a substitute for that. Number 3, we have the Maqam Ibrahim. This is a case that holds the footprints of Ibrahim alayhi salam on a rock. You don't need to go and start looking inside. Some people you see, they start touching it and wiping the ihram on there and kissing it. All of those things shouldn't be something we should be doing. If you get a chance during tawaf, if you get to glance, it's fine. Really, you don't need to. There's nothing. That is really just to tell us it's an important point where we need to pray our 2 rakats. When we finish tawaf, I'm going to explain that for you. So we mentioned the Hajar al-Aswad, the black stone. Kissing the black stone, or the substitute for the black stone, removes all sins of a person that we have made between ourselves and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like I said, any sins that we've done between us and the creation of Allah, we've violated the rights of someone, we've injured someone, hurt someone, offended someone, Allah won't forgive us until they forgive us. So any sins between us and Allah, Allah will forgive straight away. Now I have written there, warning, large crowds, high risk. Don't risk it. Thereafter we have another area on the Kaaba that is called the Rukn al-Yamani. Rasulullah used to sometimes pass his hand and touch it when you used to do tawaf. If you're going at a quiet time and you manage to get close to the Kaaba and you manage to touch it, maybe you can get the reward of that sunnah. You don't need to start kissing it the way you do Hajar Aswad, or people think you have to go and start touching that also. It's sunnah to do so in tawaf if you can't, then it's fine also. Then you have the gutter of the Kaaba. called Mizab al-Rahma. There's nothing really specific about it. It's just that when it rains, the water that is gathered on the roof of the Kaaba then comes through, and it's just nice to look at when you see all that water coming down. It's a metaphor of Allah's mercy coming down on you. So it's nice to look at that also, inshallah. So touching the Hajar Aswad removes sins. Performing tawaf properly, the reward of that is the same as freeing a slave. One does not place their foot on the ground nor raise it. So that's every step you're taking in tawaf, except that Allah removes a sin. Allah bestows a good deed. So some people think, oh, I have to go on the roof now and I have to go on the second and third floor. My tawaf is going to take triple the time. Think of it as triple the steps, triple the rewards, triple the sins forgiven. If we change our mindset from now for this, maybe we might be encouraged to do a longer tawaf. You might be encouraged to do it on the outskirts of the mataf. You're thinking, oh, it's so busy and I'm right on the edge of the mataf. My tawaf is so much longer. If only I could go closer. You're going to feel sad. No. Feel happy. Allah's given you more steps. Allah's given you more sins forgiven. Allah's given you more rewards. Every step is a reward. Every step is a sin forgiven. That is a hadith narrated by Imam al-Tirmidhi radiallahu ta'ala. So around the Kaaba, this is just a quick diagram of the Kaaba that we've talked about. We've got the Hatim, the door of the Kaaba, the Multazam. Before there used to be a green line which indicated where the Hajar Aswad was. That's no longer there. Now we have a green light. And when we look at the steps of Tawaf on the next slide, I'll explain what we need to do. So, number one, you have your intention. You are in the state of wudu. And we need to start each round from the Hajar al-Aswad. So what we need to do now, it's not going to be possible for you to go and kiss the Hajar al-Aswad on each round. So the substitute I was talking about, Allah has given us something called istilam. Istilam means you face the direction of the Hajar al-Aswad. You put both your hands up. Say Bismillah, Allahu Akbar. Kiss your hands, raise them towards Hajar al-Aswad. Bismillah, Allahu Akbar. And then you start your round of Tawaf. Now during Tawaf, it's very important that the front and the back of our body does not face the Kaaba. It's only our left side that should be facing the Kaaba. So we should not be facing the Kaaba while we're doing Tawaf. No, we should be our left side facing the Kaaba. And then easy way, especially the area around Hajar al-Aswad when it gets busy and you feel like you're getting pushed, an easy way to ensure that you are always facing the right way is if you look at the tiles on the ground. If your foot is 90 degrees to the grouting of the tiles, no matter what section of the Kaaba you are on, you will always be facing the right way. You have to be very careful about this, that your back and your front does not face the Kaaba. Number two, whilst you're in Tawaf, this is not a moment that we should be engaging in conversation. MashaAllah, you see someone from Leicester, and, oh, bye, how are you? What hotel you in? You okay? When did you come? No, not during Tawaf. After Tawaf, you can do that. During Tawaf, just like in Jummah and Khutbah, we're not allowed to talk. Also during Tawaf, you're not allowed to talk. There should be no talking. You can smile, you can wave, you can indicate, but you can't talk. So don't talk during Tawaf also. So first of all, we started off Istilam. We raise both hands, palms facing the Hajar Aswad. We say Bismillah, Allahu Akbar, wa lillahi alhamd. And then we pray Bismillah, Allahu Akbar, started the Tawaf. And we need to now remember to ensure that we have taken our right shoulder out. That is called ittiba. So for Tawaf, there are two things. Number one, we take our right shoulder out of our Ihram clothing. Number two, we do something called Ramal for the first few rounds. That is just like a march, like a light march. When you're doing the first 3 rounds of Tawaf, that is also a sunnah that we should do. And like I said, left shoulder facing the Kaaba, you need to do 7 rounds. And obviously no one's going to go the opposite way. Everybody's going to go the same direction. So anti-clockwise. And we will start each round with the Istilam. And then on the 7th round, when we finish the 7th round of Tawaf, we will also do an additional Istilam of the Hajar al-Aswad. And that will now mark our Tawaf is complete. Thereafter, we will go pray 2 rakats. These 2 rakats can be prayed anywhere in Masjid Al-Haram. It has to be, however, behind the Maqam Ibrahim. And most likely, it will always be that because the Tawaf crowd will be so large, you won't be praying so close to the Kaaba that you're in front of the Maqam Ibrahim. So anywhere behind the Maqam Ibrahim, anywhere in the Masjid, you can pray those 2 rakats of Tawaf. Thereafter, it's sunnah to have some Zamzam water, standing up facing the Kaaba, drink some Zamzam. You'll see the gallons everywhere, you'll see the taps at the back. Really refresh yourself before you go for Sa'i. Because Sa'i also is it takes a lot of energy out of you. It's a very tiring experience. So maybe take a break, have some Zamzam. You can sit down. You don't have to do everything straight away. You can sit down, take a break, just enjoy looking at the Kaaba, that magical moment there. You're looking at the Kaaba, mesmerized, the du'as you're making, and have some Zamzam, make du'a. Also, when you drink Zamzam, the du'a you make is also an accepted du'a. So, in summary, you have to ittiba of your right shoulder. You do istilam of the Hajar al-Aswad at the start of each round and at the end of the 7th round. The first 3 rounds we do Ramal, which is like a light march. We pray 2 rakats thereafter, and then we drink Zamzam water. Thereafter, you will see a sign that will say to the Mas'ah. Mas'a means the location of Safa and Marwa. So just go through there, just follow the crowd and make your way towards the area for Safa Marwa. Safa Marwa, you start each round at Safa and you end at Marwa, and that is the start of the next round. So some people think it's two Safa, from Safa to Marwa and back to Safa. That is not one round, that is two rounds. And I'll explain that shortly when I show you a diagram. For males, the area closer to Safa has a section that has green lights. In the area, we have to pace ourselves. We don't need to run a marathon, but you need to maybe jog. Maybe if you can run a little bit, or you need to go a bit more faster. For females, they don't have to do that. For males, they have to pace between the area of the green lights. If you're going with some of your friends or your siblings or your cousins, it might be a good idea to have a little competition, a race if you want, as long as you're not coming in anybody's way and you're not knocking anybody over. There are 7 rounds. So the Sa'i starts at Safa, ends at Marwa. Now sometimes what happens, so for example, when we went in Ramadan, we went for Sa'i after Jumu'ah Salah. It was extremely busy, and the guards pushed us all towards one door, and we realized that the place we've entered into the Mas'a is actually the side closest to Marwa. So we had to do an entire round, which does not even count, until we got to Safa, and then you start from Safa. So depending on which side of the Mas'a you enter from, you need to make sure. The easy way to remember is that the green lights are closer to Safa. So if the green lights are on the furthest end and you're not sure which side you're on, go towards that end and start from that side. That side is where Safa will start from. So when you get to Mount Safa, raise your hands facing the Qibla, make a very short dua. Before you could see a view of the Kaaba. Now, because of all the construction work and everything, you can't really see the Kaaba from the Mas'a. But raise your hands facing the Qibla, say Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah. Even if it's just a short 30-second dua, but make that dua and then start your Sa'i. Start from Mount Safa, go towards Mount Marwa, that is one round. Thereafter from Mount Marwa, come back to Safa, that is your second round. From Safa back to Marwa, that's your third round. And like that, you started at Safa and you will end at Marwa. Once you finish each round, each mountain, make a short dua facing the Kaaba, facing the Qibla. That is something that we should do. And thereafter, we have completed our 7 rounds. We've paced or jogged or run between the green lights. And during Sa'i also, you should try and engage in du'as or dhikr or saying the talbiyah or anything that comes to your mind that you feel you can do in that moment. Now the difference between tawaf and Sa'i, in tawaf you have to have wudu, in Sa'i you don't have to have wudu. Now let's quickly mention this, it might be a question but let's mention it now. If you break your wudu and you completed 3 full rounds, you're on your 4th round of tawaf, then you don't need to start your tawaf again. After you've done your wudu, you start from the 4th round. However, if you've done less than 4 rounds, then you've broken your wudu. You will have to do, after you've done your wudu, you start your tawaf again from scratch. I'll explain that later. I think there is a question about that, so I'll explain that in more detail when we get to the Q&A. But that is basically the rule in a nutshell. So this is a quick diagram of Masjid Al-Haram. We started off from the green light, which was in line with the Hajar al-Aswad for our tawaf. We did 7 rounds. We prayed our 2 rakats, drank some Zamzam. We then entered to Safa. So for example, if I entered from this side over here, then I'm going to have to come all the way down to Safa and then start my round from here. So the green lights, like I mentioned, the green lights are closer to Mount Safa. That is the area where you do Ramal, where you basically pace, go a bit faster. If you can jog, then jog. And that is your 7 rounds of Sa'i. And then you will exit over here. You get to Marwa, make your dua facing the Qibla, and then you exit from there. And then you can make your way for the last step of your Umrah. Another quick diagram of the Sa'i. So from Safa to Marwa is 1 round. In between, you went a bit quick or faster over here, got to Marwa, and then from Marwa, then you start your 2nd round. Again, jog or run, go to Safa, make your dua. Next 3rd round, 4th round, 5th round, 6th round, and 7th round from Safa to Marwa. That is your Sa'i complete. Now we have one thing remaining. Last step of Umrah for our Umrah to be complete. So we are still in the state of Ihram. We still have to make sure we are abiding by the laws of Ihram and not doing any of those things that will violate the rules of Ihram. Step number 3 now is cutting of the hair. So first of all, we'll start off with females. What females should do is they should get a plait at the end of their hair in a bunch. If the hair is all the same size, then they get all of their hair together in a bunch. And from the end of that bunch with a scissors is basically the easiest way to do it. You wrap it around 2 fingers. Around 1 inch of the hair has to be cut. And you cut that hair, and that is now you're out of the state of the Ihram once you've done that. If, however, a female has got layers in their hair, for example, then from each layer they will have to ensure that the person cutting their hair, or if that is at least 1 inch is cut from each layer. If your hair is not in layers and it's all the same size, then it's a bit more easier. For men now, what do we need to do? We need to ensure we shave the entire head as per the sunnah. That is called halaq. There are two ways. One is called halaq, one is called qasr. Halaq is where you shave your head, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam made 3 times the dua that he made for those that do halaq. Should you, for example, opt to go for qasr, that is then to not shave your hair but cut your hair, then the minimum is that you also cut 1 inch of every single hair on your head. So that you have to make sure you ensure that you cut at least 1 inch of your hair. Now, what about if you do a second Umrah and you might even be the next day and you shaved your head the previous day? What do you do? How are you going to cut your hair? When you go and you sit down on the barber's chair, the barber will know. You know, we did Umrah the next day in Ramadan and there was no hair on our head. But when he got the blade and they cut the hair, I don't know where something came out from. There was some hair. So there is something that can be removed. Now, common question asks, what about those people who Allah has taken their hair away from them? They no longer have hair on their head or portions of their hair on their head. So for them, the barber will basically, they know what to do. They basically just spray some water on, and then with the blade, they will just pass it over your head as a ritual so that you have also completed the last step of your Umrah. So I'm just going to quickly read through this. Females should, we've mentioned that men should shave the entire head as per the sunnah. Those who cannot shave your head. Now people say, oh, I don't want to shave my head. Really, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. It is a pilgrimage. I'm not asking you to go opposite or anywhere else to any other barber and shave your head. This is just specifically for Hajj and Umrah. You know, if you're not going to shave your hair anywhere else in the world, but at least for Hajj and Umrah, let us try and follow the sunnah and really just shave our heads. And the hair that will grow from after you've shaved your head will be a blessing. You know, you'll be blessing in your hair. If you want your hair to be a certain way, that could be also a dua on your dua list. But really, you know, make the most of the opportunity. Really do shave your head. I feel quite, you know, some people, they are really passionate about their hair. They say, I'm not going to shave my head. You're going for Umrah. You're going for a pilgrimage. If you're going for a journey or you're going for a wedding or you're going for something else and you want to look nice, fair enough. You're going for Umrah. Let us at least try to at least once shave our head. So we get 3 times the dua which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam made. I mean, who doesn't want the dua of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Not once, not twice, but thrice. So where do you go to cut your hair now? Now, sometimes when you come out of Marwa, there will be people that will come to you and will say, halaq, halaq, or they will say, you want to go for a haircut. Now, sometimes some of these people, they do have a barber shop, they are an agent or a barber, but their salon may be very far, and you're following them going through the valleys of Makkah and you're lost. So don't just follow anybody and go. When you come out of Marwa, sometimes there are a few shops there, or most of the modern hotels that have shops underneath, they also have barbers. Easiest way, if you come towards the towers, the Safa tower on the left, which is not part of the clock tower and the other towers, but it's on the left, it's next to the compound. The Safa tower, if you go inside there, it's the quickest way. You go up the escalators twice, and there'll be signed barber shops, and literally the whole floor of barber shops, whichever one you want to, just go inside. They are very fast. They'll cut your head, and within no time you'll be out of there. Easiest way. So you don't have to go around looking. If you're staying in a hotel that has got a barber shop on site, you might just go back to your hotel and just have your haircut over there also. So now a summary of Umrah. Number 1, we entered into the state of Ihram. We did our intention. We did our Talbiyah. Number 2, we did our Tawaf. We're in the state of Wudu, 7 rounds of Tawaf. Then we paid 2 rakats behind the Maqam Ibrahim. Number 4, we drank Zamzam facing the Kaaba. Number 5, we did Sa'i between Safa and Marwa. And lastly, number 6, we cut our hair. And that is a complete Umrah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept your Umrahs and make it easy for you and all of us. Now, next thing now is some basic tips for your stay at Makkah. So doing multiple tawafs is superior than doing multiple umrahs. Some people think, I want to do an umrah every day. No, it's more superior, more virtuous, more rewarding to do multiple tawafs. Now it's slightly difficult because you can only be in the state of Ihram, or you can only be wearing the clothes of Ihram. The police will tell you that if you go for an Ihram, I'll let you in, otherwise you have to go back. So if you want to wear Ihram and go in, wear your Ihram and go do tawaf. Otherwise, go to the 2nd, 3rd floor and do your tawaf. Doing multiple tawafs is more superior than doing multiple umrahs. Also, when you're there, try and go and touch the Kaaba, cling onto the Kaaba, make dua. Now, if you're in the state of Ihram and you haven't cut your hair, you haven't finished your Umrah, you haven't exited the state of Ihram, then you have to be careful when you're approaching certain parts of the Kaaba. So if you touch the bricks of the Kaaba or the black stone, these things are very heavily perfumed on a daily basis. And if that perfume, you touch the bricks of the Kaaba or you touch the Hajar Aswad, and that comes onto you, now violated the code of Ihram. So you got to be careful of that. But if you're not in the state of Ihram, you've completed your Umrah, and you get there, you're clinging onto the Kaaba, and you get that perfume on you, it's fine. Otherwise, you must be careful of that. So really try and go to the Kaaba, make dua. And even when you're in Makkah, just if you could be far away on another floor inside the building where you've got a view of the Kaaba. It's quite restricted to where you do have a view. If you do get a chance, just sit there and look at the Kaaba. Looking at the Kaaba is also such a great reward. And really try and make the most of your time there. If you can't pray in the Hatim, take advantage of Zamzam, drink as much Zamzam as you can. Really, the Prophet ﷺ said that a hypocrite is the only person who really cannot take too much Zamzam. A believer can never get full of Zamzam. Really, drink Zamzam, fill yourself up. You got Zamzam, unlimited Zamzam access. So make the most of that time there. Spend most of your time in the Haram. Don't spend most of your time in the malls or in the food court or anywhere else. Our priority number one is the Haram, is the Kaaba. Not saying you can't go and eat and you can't go and do your shopping, but that's not our focus. That's a bonus that we have to do or we can do. Our focus and the maximum amount of time we want is to be in the Haram and aim to pray all your salat with Jama'ah, with Masjid Al-Haram. That means that if you got a hotel that has a prayer room, don't go do Jama'ah in there. Go to the Haram, pray your salah in the Haram with the Imam, make the most of your time there. Any worship you do is multiplied 100,000 times in Makkah al-Mukarramah. So really make the most of that. When you're there, avoid time in malls and restaurants. Try to only eat al-watani, local meat. So you need to inquire, make sure. Nowadays, a lot of the takeaways and food places do have a certificate of where they are trying to move towards localized industry. So a lot of places have moved towards local meat. But if it's imported, there's a chance that is it really halal or not? There is that debate. You don't want to. You've got haram eaten and you've got haram running in your bloodstream and you're making your du'as and you're crying away and none of your du'as are accepted. Rasulullah, a person will be there, his hair's disheveled, he's in a really poor state and his hands are up in the air and he's crying away and he's Ya Arhamar Rahimin, Ya Arhamar Rahimin, and he's crying in du'a. Not a single du'a is accepted. Why? Because he's been nourished by haram. His clothing is haram. How is his du'a going to be accepted? Really, we want to be careful for that and what we consume to ensure that our du'as are not rejected just because we ate something that we felt like having certain things that we should not be having anyway, certain fast food outlets, we know for what reason, we no longer eat from those places, so you should also not be going there also. Try to complete the Quran while you're in Makkah, like I said, and this is really a place of du'a. This is a place for you to have a one-to-one conversation with Allah. Really, it's not just about praying Rabbana atina fid dunya hasana wa fil akhirati hasana wa qina adhaban nar. Yes, those are du'as from the Quran and Sunnah that we can read. Really, dua is not just reading. Dua is a munajat. It's conversation with Allah. You're crying to Allah. You're asking and you're begging from Allah. Really make the most of your time in Makkah. That is the place for dua. And lastly, try and go for ziyarah. Go and see the places. Go and see the places where Hajj take place. Go and see the places where, go and visit the graveyard of Al-Mu'alla where Rasulullah's wife Khadija and many other Sahaba are buried. Go and see the landmarks of Makkah al-Mukarramah where the Quran was revealed, the Mount of Hira, the Mount of Thawr. You'll see all these places, the Masjid of Jinn, where Rasulullah sat with the jinn and they learned from him and they accepted Islam. All these places are there in Makkah. Go and visit them. So also make the most of that. There is also a museum in Makkah which is next to the Kaaba Kiswa factory. Should you want to go and visit a museum, you can also do that. Now the last thing I'm going to mention about Makkah, the temperament of Makkah is hot. One of my sheikh is from Makkah al-Mukarramah and he says, people of Makkah are also very hot-blooded people. He says, Makkah is hot. The mountains of Makkah are hot. The people of Makkah, their blood is hot, and we very easily get angry. So if we get angry at you, don't become upset or offended. So like I said, Makkah is hot. The temperament of Makkah is hot. You will go through challenges. You will go through obstacles. You will go through things that is slightly uncomfortable for you. That is really a test for us. In that moment, we will have to exercise patience. But don't worry, we have Medina coming, and Medina is heaven on earth. Literally heaven on earth. When we look at Medina, we're going to look at why I said that also. So like I said, temperament of Makkah is hot, and it is very busy, so we will have a lot of sabr. Now inshallah we will move on to visiting Madinah al-Munawwara, and that is called ziyarah. Some people may be thinking, well, ziyarah you just said was to visit the landmarks. Why is the word ziyarah being used over here? The word ziyarah literally means to visit. So we are visiting. Who are we visiting or what are we visiting? Before we do that, I have to say, make sure before you go, you've got your Medina companion. So right now, if you haven't already, there is a QR code there. Scan the code, download the FCPM app. On the FCPM app, there is a section over here for visiting Madinah al-Munawwara. You've got the du'as for seeing the road to Medina, entering Medina. You've got various collections of Salat and Salam, various compilations of Durood Sharif, really getting you ready for visiting Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There's also a tasbih counter on there you can use. recommended du'as also. So that is there both on Android. The colorful QR code is the Android one for the Play Store, and the black and white one is for the Apple Store. Scan the QR code, download the app if you have it already. And from now, prepare for visiting Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam by starting already to increase in your salat and salam on Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam also. So, like I said, ziyarah, visiting. What are we visiting? Number one, we are visiting the grave, the masjid, and the city of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, I've separated these three. The reason is because in our intention, we should have all three. There are separate virtues of each one of those three. Separate virtues for visiting the grave of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Separate virtues for visiting and praying in his masjid. And separate virtues for visiting his city. And these are all three things that we are going to do. So this is really, Makkah was really trying to build that spiritual connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Medina is really working on our spiritual connection with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It is the city of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that too is a place where we can get forgiven. We can attain the intercession of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Every moment there is also precious. So all those things we mentioned about Makkah, about making sure we're not wasting our time, about it being unplugged, but not wasting our time in the shopping area, making the most of the masjid, all of those things will apply also here. Now, from your journey, from now till you get to Medina, there are things we need to bear in mind. Number one, let us enhance sunnah. I am going to visit Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. How much sunnah is there in my life? From now, let us increase. Number two, let us increase in our salat and salam and our durood sharif on Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Number three, travel with some yearning and enthusiasm. You know all these anashid that we have about Medina, these nazms that we have in some jalsas and stuff. Most of these were written on the way to Medina. Like for example, Junaid Jamshed used to sing the poetry of Sheikh Saeed Ahmad Khan rahimahullah, Muhammad ka roza qareeb aa raha hai, all these other nasheeds and that are written. All of these were written on the journey to Medina. So I'm not saying you need to start singing on the way, but if you're comfortable singing in front of your family members in the car or in the train, no one's going to stop you. But really, if you want to maybe get some earphones or something, or listen to some anashid, or read some seerah, or read some poetry, really to motivate and encourage you, get you in that feeling and in the mood, I am going to visit Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So these anashid really do help. And this is the time to use it. So really you make the most of that. Do listen to some, whichever anashid you want that you feel will motivate you to feel that you're coming to Madinah Munawwara. Use that for you. You are traveling to visit Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam for your beloved. So when you enter Madinah Munawwara, you have humility and humbleness. Like we did in Makkah, we check in, we freshen up. When we're ready, you then from the adab, the etiquettes of visiting Medina, the fuqaha in the books of fiqh, they write, first of all, you should shower, you should try and wear your best clothes, use some perfume, and then before you go on the way to the masjid or on the way to giving salam, try and give some charity. Try and give some charity. This is taken from a verse of the Quran that the Sahaba were encouraged to give some charity before they come and visit Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So you might, for example, see some cleaners of Masjid Al-Haram. You might want to give some maybe 1 or 2 notes of riyals, or anybody you see and you want to give some charity before you get to going and visiting Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's grave. I've mentioned over here, spend on the people of Medina. It's a separate special virtue. Whoever spends on the people of Medina, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you barakah in your wealth. So that's why it's recommended, some ulama recommend, do all your shopping or most of your shopping that you need to do it in Medina. Because alongside getting what you need, you're also spending on the people of Medina. You're contributing to the economy of Medina. And so that will in itself will bring barakah in your wealth also. You will see that when you come back. Sometimes you will see that while you're there also automatically. And we have to remember the adab and the etiquettes. We are dressed in sunnah because we are in the city of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Silence, salawat, really taking in the tranquility and the peace of Medina. And this also, just like Makkah was a place where your wishes and dreams and du'as are accepted, Medina also is a place. Whatever you ask for, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will answer that for you. Now this is a journey to travel in front of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You're going to go and visit the beloved sallallahu alaihi wasallam. An ayah of the Quran, Allah says in the Quran, وَلَوْ أَنَّهُمْ إِذْ ظَلَمُوا أَنفُسَهُمْ جَاءُوكَ فَاسْتَغْفَرُوا اللَّهَ وَاسْتَغْفَرَ لَهُمُ الرَّسُولُ لَوَجَدُوا اللَّهَ تَوَّابًا رَحِيمًا. That is, if they had wronged themselves, we commit sins, we daily committing sins, and then جَاءُوكَ, they come to you, فَاسْتَغْفَرُوا اللَّهَ, they seek forgiveness from Allah, وَاسْتَغْفَرَ لَهُمُ الرَّسُولُ, and Rasulullah also sallallahu alaihi wasallam also seek forgiveness on our behalf from Allah, لَوَجَدُوا اللَّهَ تَوَّابًا رَحِيمًا, they will find Allah most accepting of repentance, most forgiving. When we go there, in the hadith Rasulullah also mentions that when a person comes to my grave after I pass away and they say salam to my grave, Allah will return my ruh to my body and I can hear that salam and I will reply to that salam. So Rasulullah ruh will be in his body. He will reply to our salam. He will make dua for us. And He will only recognize us if we are already in the habit of sending salat and salam. Because every time we send once, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, the hadith tells us Allah has kept a group of angels that take our salat and salam to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam's grave, and they mention it with our name and our father's name. That so and so, the son of so and so, the daughter of so and so has sent salam on you, and Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam gives salam back. So we are really going to visit Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam's grave. Now, how do we get there? This is a quick map of Masjid al-Nabawi. And we are, before you could go from inside the masjid, now it's very strict, very one-way system. You have to go through a certain way. So we are going to go to the front of the masjid, to the southern courtyard. And from there, we are going to make our way towards Babu Salam, which is over here. And I'm going to show you how to do that. So now what you need to do when you get to the front of the masjid, this is what you will see. When you get to the front of the masjid, before you could just go through Babu Salam, now you're going to have to come from here, from the bottom, walk all the way along down here, and then walk around again. So you'll see all the people walking. It's a one-way system. You enter from there where the block of car park and toilets are. You enter from there, come round, and then go all the way back round. And then the line takes you to Babu Salam. And thereafter you will enter from Babu Salam. So Babu Salam this is what Babu Salam looks like on the left. This is gate number 1. You enter from there. It's underneath the only Ottoman minaret left. So this green minaret you see on the left, this is the only Ottoman minaret remaining in Masjid Nabawi. So the gate underneath that, or the door underneath that, is called Babu Salam. Enter with utmost respect. Now when you come here, you will see the beauty of the architecture and the design of Masjid Nabawi. Don't let that distract you. You can look at that later. Right now our focus should be on Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And like I said, when we entered from here, this is a long journey. And even when you get from Babu Salam to get to Rawdah Mubarak, to get to in front of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's grave, it's going to be a long journey. So in that moment, you may want to take out your FCPM app and start reading your salam from there. So by the time, because when you actually get there in front of the large gold mesh, the large circle, which signifies you are now in front of the face of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you will only get maybe 30 seconds, and the gods will push you on. So really, all that salam that you want to read, or you found a very specific form of salam that you want to read, you won't get to read that. So as you come in from Babu Salam, start reading. By the time you get there, you may have completed the compilation that you are reading, and there you'll be there in front of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that in itself is also a very, very special moment. Now in that moment, you will see people, their heads will be lowered, people will be crying, people will be in their own mesmerized emotional moment in their spiritual connection with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That is for us really to make the most of our time. That is a time of silence. That is a time when our heart and soul speaks. That is a time when our tears speak. That is a time when our gaze is lowered. We are in front of the greatest of all of Allah's creation, our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So let your tears do the talking, and present with a soft and heartfelt as-salatu was-salamu alayka ya Rasulullah. Give your salam, and thereafter you will be moved on to the graves of Abu Bakr and Umar radiyallahu ta'ala anhuma. So you will say as-salamu alayka ya Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu ta'ala an, and then as-salamu alayka ya Umar radiyallahu ta'ala an, and then you will move on and you will be made to carry on walking. They won't let you stop. Most of the time, you will be continuously walking. You might get maybe 30 seconds, and then you have to move on. And there will be a crowd coming from behind you. So really, that you need to really plan emotionally and spiritually for this special moment. And really try and make it a habit that every day I'm in Medina, I should at least go once. Try and go at least go once. Now, it doesn't mean that because you can't go, that what do I do? In Masjid Nabawi, you can give your salam from anywhere. Anywhere around the compound of Masjid Nabawi, you could be outside, especially for sisters. They don't get to come in to this part over here. This is what you see when we get there. The first 2 holes, there's nothing there. It doesn't signify anything. The third hole, the large hole, signifies you're in front of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Thereafter, you are in front of Abu Bakr and Umar. And then the last 2 holes also doesn't signify anything. But some ulama say that when Isa alayhi salam passes away, he will also be buried in the remaining space of the chamber with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Abu Bakr and Umar radiyallahu ta'ala anhuma. But really, sisters don't get to see this side. So sisters, when they come to the Rawdah or after Isha Salah, if you go to the old section of the masjid, it's open for sisters after Isha until I think about 2 a.m. You can go there, and from the rear side or the other side of the Rawdah, you can give your salam. Or anywhere, you could be outside, you see the green dome in front of you, you're there, you're giving your salam from there also. That is really your time to make the most of your time in front of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So if it's not Farad Salah time yet, make the first visit intending to visit the grave of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Go inside the masjid on one side, pray 2 rakats if you can. Ask Allah, before you go, ask Allah, oh Allah, make Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam happy with me. Make Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam happy with me. And then you advance. Exercising optimum humility and humbleness. Now, like I said, It's beautiful masjid. The architecture and design, everything, just like our masjid, mashallah, is also a very beautiful masjid. Don't let that distract you. Lower your gaze, salawat on lips, advance towards the golden mesh at the grave of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which is referred to as muwajaha sharifa, which means you're directly facing Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And like I said, salat and salam can be presented from anywhere in the masjid, outside the masjid, near the green dome. So make the most of your time there, sending salam on Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Thereafter, request from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ask him to make dua for you. Ask him to intercede from you. Because the ayah that we had at the start, we read that if we ask Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to make dua for us, and then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam will intercede for us, Allah will definitely forgive us. And so, as Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam informed us, his ruh is returned to him. He can hear us. He will hear us. He does hear us. And when we say whatever we say in that moment, that is presented to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then comes the Rawdah and Masjid al-Nabawi. So one prayer in Masjid al-Nabawi is better than 1,000 salah anywhere else. That is the virtue of Masjid al-Nabawi. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, whatever is in between my pulpit and my house, my mimbar and my house, is a Rawdah, is a garden from the gardens of paradise. You know, people say heaven on earth. This really is heaven on earth. This section, when Qiyamah happens, when the earth is destroyed, this section will be lifted and will be a part of Jannah. So a person who enters Jannah, that's why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam city is so peaceful. You've got heaven on earth there. And so to go there now, before it was really hard, you were pushing and shoving, you'll be there and someone will come and start salah in your lap and all sorts would happen. Now you have a good amount of time there, but you can only go if you have a booking. We're going to look at that shortly. And lastly, there's a hadith narrated by Daraqutni, whoever visits my grave after my death is like the one who has visited me during my lifetime. And in another hadith, they will get my intercession also on the Day of Judgment. So we should make that as part of our intention also. This is what the Rawdah looks like. We have there the mimbar, the pulpit. We have there the mihrab where the Imam reads salah from. And on the far left, we have a dark green mesh. That is the side of the grave of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his home, the home of Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha. We can only get in this section through an application from the Nusuk app. So if you haven't already, you need to download the Nusuk app, make a profile, and then each Friday we're going to look at that shortly. First of all, let's actually look at the Rawdah. So in the Rawdah we have all these pillars. Each of these pillars signify something. I'm not going to go through all of them. I'll mention a few. So the one that is directly next to the mihrab, that is where the tree trunk was, the half stump that cried when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam moved to the pulpit and started giving khutbah on the pulpit. The Sahaba heard, there were different words from different Sahaba. Some related like a baby crying, some related like a camel crying, so some it was a shrieking sound, it was a weeping sound, but they all heard it in Masjid Nabawi, this dead stump of a half a bark of a tree crying out of separation from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so that is the location of Ustuwana al-Hannana, the bottom over there. Thereafter we have Ustuwana Aisha, which is the closest to the mihrab of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And over there, Aisha radiallahu ta'ala said, if people knew the reward of praying there, they will fight to pray there. That doesn't mean that we need to go and fight. That is trying to tell us the importance and significance of that pillar. Next to that, we have Ustuwana at-Tawbah. There was a companion, Abu Lubaba. He tied himself to the pillar and he said, no one can untie me until Allah has declared He has forgiven me. When His forgiveness was declared, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself untied him. That is also a special pillar there. Thereafter, the three pillars that are on the mesh, the one at the front is Ustuwana as-Sarir. This is where in i'tikaf Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to put his bedding. This is also in line with the bedding or the grave of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This green circle over here is the green dome. So underneath the green dome, we have the room of Aisha, which has the three graves of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, of Abu Bakr and Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhuma. Two more, we've got Ustuwana al-Haras. That's where the guard, sometimes it would be Ali radiallahu ta'ala, and sometimes other Sahaba, he would stand there guarding Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's home. And lastly, the last one over there, Ustuwana al-Wufud. That's where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to meet the envoys, or when the different emperors would send people to meet Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he would meet them there on that part over there. This is a diagram of the Rawdah. You need to have a booking slot on the Nusuk app. This is what it looks like. You will every Friday, the slots open up for the upcoming week, normally from around 11 a.m. to up till about just after Jumu'ah Salah. So you can start looking on the app over there. So you will see, you will see the days show up. So if it's not faded away, you can see the date. You can click on it, then you will choose morning or evening and choose your slot. Whichever slot you choose, make sure then you put an alarm. If you fall asleep and you miss it, then you've lost your chance and you're not going to get another chance until 365 days later. So make sure that you do not miss out. You have to go beforehand. You will have to line up outside. You will have to queue up. We'll look at that very shortly. It is a 30-minute slot. Some people might only get 5, 10, 15 minutes. Some people may get longer if you're smart about what time you choose. So for example, if you choose a time just before Adhan, the last slot, for example, before Fajr Salah, or the last slot before any specific Salah, then most likely once the Adhan starts, they don't take anybody out. So if you're there at the last group and the Adhan starts, that means you've got the additional time of praying your Salah with Jama'ah in the Rawdah. When I went to Ramadan, Alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed me with being able to go get a booking just before the Isha Adhan. So I went there, I had my 20 minutes, and then I had the Isha Adhan, we paid Isha Salah, we paid Tarawih Salah, we paid Witr Salah. I had a good, alhamdulillah, 2.5 hours in the Rawdah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's about booking smart. So look at the Salah time, look at the options you have, look at the timetable, when is Adhan. If you really want more time, try and book that time just before Adhan, so you get maximum amount of time there also. Thereafter, so when you go, where'd you go from? So if you remember, you were queuing up over here to give salam to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Where the green dome is, this whole area over here is reserved for the queues for Rawdah. You will see some people in red or maroon waistcoats. And those are the people that are really going to check your app, they're going to check your booking, they're going to tell you which queue to go in, where to sit and wait. All of that is happening in this region over here. So that's where we are going to head to when you have your appointment. So before your appointment, don't go when it's your time. If your time is from 12:30, don't go at 12:30, maybe go at 11:30 or go at 12 o'clock. So that you've got enough time to get there for them to check your apps. You have 2-3 people that will check your QR code until you get there, then you'll be admitted and set inside. Don't argue with them. Sometimes they will be a bit, they might treat you in a way which you don't like. They might talk to you in a way which you don't like. Have a bit of sabr. We are directly in front of the green dome, directly in front of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Let's have a bit of patience there also. Don't get angry and annoyed because someone shouted at you or told you to go back. Next we have, so these are they have some markings now on the ground to show you which way to go for the queues for Rawdah. So we'll be standing in between those lines. Another virtue, if you get to spend 8 days or more in Medina, so if you've not already booked your hotels or you're planning to go later on and you're going for a longer time, if you can do at least 8 days or more in Medina. If you can't because you've got less days, then maybe another time make dua, Allah takes you again. But if you can, because whoever performs 40 salah one after the other, that is 8 full days, 5 salah, 8 full days, one after the other in Masjid Nabawi without missing a salah in between, Rasulullah said, for him is granted exemption from the fire of hell, and for him is granted exemption from the punishment, and he shall remain free of hypocrisy. A very easy way for us to get bara'atun min an-nar, freedom from hellfire, freedom from hypocrisy, by spending 8 full days in Madinah Munawwara, praying 40 salah in Masjid Nabawi, inshallah. May Allah take us again and again, so we get to do this again and again, inshallah. Next, what to do in Medina. Before we do that, I'm just going to play something very shortly, a very short thing for us. Just bear with me 1 second.
أتينا لدار النبي الكريم وشوق الفؤاد إليها عظيم فطوبى لكم أنتم أهلها بهذا المقام وهذا النعيم بأرض المدينة صحب كرام تفانوا وضحوا لكي لا نهيم وما بين منبره سيدي ومسكانه روضة من نعيم فيا أهل طيبة تكونوا بها على نهج أسلافنا المستقيم وعظم أخي دائما شأنها ففي أرضها خير جسم يقيم.
ففي أرضها خير جسم يقيم. That is why I put that there, the last line of that poetry. ففي أرضها خير جسم يقيم. In its land resides the greatest body. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is residing in that land. So that brings us to the next slide about maintaining adab. When we're in Madinah Munawwara, we are in the city of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We are walking on ground under which lies Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We are walking on land. Every centimeter of Medina, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam must have walked, the Sahaba must have walked, Quran must have come down, stories of the Seerah must have happened, various instances must have happened. It's a very sacred place. That now, we look throughout history, different ulama used to treat Medina in a very specific way. I'll give you an example of Imam Malik. Everybody heard of Imam Malik, one of the four Imams. He was known as the Imam of the people of Medina, from Medina, lives in Medina, and passed away in Medina. Imam Malik, he would not walk in Madinatul Munawwara with footwear. He would not ride an animal in the vicinity of Madinatul Munawwara. And he would say the reason when he was asked, how can I walk on land under which Rasulullah resides? Or how can I walk on land with footwear or an animal where Rasulullah's footsteps were? Now, he lived in the generation just after, so the sun was still the same. It was still a sandy area. Nowadays you have concrete. I'm not saying you need to go and take your shoes off and get blisters on your feet. You have concrete. But the point of it is to mention how we should respect Medina. That was Imam Malik's way of showing love for Medina, showing respect for Medina. We will have our own ways of showing love, respect, reverence for the city of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And it's very important. We respect the city. We are very careful of what we do, what we say. Every moment that we are there, we are walking on land. فِي أَرْضِهَا خَيْرُ جِسْمٍ يُقِيمٍ. Under that land resides Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So whilst you're there, also don't waste your time. It's not a holiday. Every moment is precious. Uphold the sanctity of the holy sites. Maximize your time. You know, in Makkah, when we arrived to Makkah, we were saying Talbiyah on all the streets of Makkah. When you get to Medina, on every street of Medina, until you see the minarets of Masjid Nabawi, let us use that time to send salat and salam on Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Pray Durood Sharif. We are in the city of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Again, if you can, try and complete a Quran. Try and spend most of your time in the Haram. Try also to aim. You might not get your 8 full days because you're only staying there for 6 days or 5 days. But still, try and pray all your salah with jama'ah in the masjid. Like I said, every salah is equal to 1,000 salah. That is in addition to the 25 or 27 times you're going to get for praying with jama'ah. In addition to that, you're going to get 1,000 times more reward just because you're in the masjid of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then what else do you do in Medina? Visit the landmarks, the places where the seerah occurred, places where events that we read from the hadith, we maybe heard from our imam, from the different speeches that we've learnt about, all those incidents from the seerah, where did those things happen? Go to visit Masjid Quba. Rasulullah said, whoever does wudu and then goes to Masjid Quba, whether walking or whether riding, goes to Masjid Quba and prays 2 rakats there, they get a reward for an accepted Umrah. Very simple. And now it's so easy. You go to a masjid called Masjid Ghamama. They've got these golf carts. You go there, give them 10 riyal, and they will take you up Quba, walk all the way to Masjid Quba. You're there in 10 minutes. If you want to walk it, it's a half an hour, 40-minute walk. Maybe you might want to walk in the night so it's not too hot. And go there. Rasulullah would visit Quba every Saturday. If you're there on a Saturday, try and go on a Saturday, but you can get that reward any day. Rasulullah sometimes would walk it, sometimes he would ride an animal. So if you want to use the golf cart or you want to walk it, you can do both. The point is, go there, pray your surakats, visit these masajid, visit Jannatul Baqi, the graves of the Sahaba and the pious that are buried there, visit the mountain of Uhud, see where the battlefield happened, look at the Archer's Mount, look at the mountain of Uhud, the grave of Hamza radiallahu ta'ala anhu is there, and the Shuhada of Uhud. Then go to all these different places in Medina that is blessed. Go and visit these landmarks. There are so many places you can visit in Medina. And one of my friends who's currently, he lives in Medina right now, he's opened a tour company over there. It's called the Haramain Guide, and he does tours in both Makkah and Medina. So if you want, you can go to their website, make a booking, and there are many guides over there that you can get to that will give you a guide and a tour of all these landmarks in Madinatul Munawwara. Also, there are quite a few museums. There's 2 new museums just in front of the Green Dome. One is the Seerah Museum, an amazing museum I would really recommend. Also, there is a museum on the expansion of Masjid Nabawi, so how it was from Rasulullah's time until today. It takes you through that journey also. Then there's a Dar al-Madinah Museum. It's near the train station and the airport. We really recommend that museum. Really, really good. It's called Dar al-Madinah. You ask a taxi driver, take me to Dar al-Madinah, Mathaf Dar al-Madinah, a beautiful museum. There's a scholar there who did a PhD on the history of Medina, Dr. Abdul Aziz Al-Ka'ki. He set up this museum, an amazing museum you'll see there also. So many things you can do in Medina. Now the last thing I know, Adhan, is very shortly, we're just going to quickly look at some logistics in terms of visa. So you get 3 types of visa. You can get a tourist e-visa, which you can enter and exit as many times as you want. It will cost anything between, it's gone a bit cheaper now, so anything between £80 to £130. That is based on the exchange rate and what medical insurance you choose. That also includes medical cover. Is valid from 1 year from the date of issue, and you will get it straight away. To get that, you go to visa.visitsaudi.com. Thereafter, we British citizens have an advantage. If you have a British passport, you can apply for the electronic visa waiver. It costs anything between 30 to 35 pounds. It's a single entry visa. However, medical cover is not covered, and you can stay up to 180 days. You can stay in one go up to 180 days. You can also work and study with that visa. Others you can't. Then you can also get an Umrah visa. Umrah visa you can only get from a travel agent, but you get that very quick. It's not like before where you have to send your passport off to the embassy. You do normally get it within 24 hours also. That also includes medical cover. For that one, you need vaccines. For the other two, you don't need any vaccine. For the tourist visa or the EVW, you don't need any vaccines. For the Umrah visa, sometimes they can ask you for proof of certain vaccinations. So if you're applying for that, if you're going as a group, normally the travel agent will sort that out for you anyway. Lastly, some useful sites if you want to take a picture of. IslamicLandmarks.com has got some guides of the different places in Haramain. We have the Council of British Hajj and Umrah, CBH UK. They have up-to-date news. If there are any medical emergency, something happens, Allah forbid, Allah protect us all, you get the latest news there. That's our website, hajjumrahessentials.co.uk. So all those things we mentioned, the violations chart, the steps by step of how to wear ihram, also anything you need to buy for your journey for Umrah, also you'll find that there. The charity I was talking about, if you make a violation, Adahi.org, a local charity in Makkah, they will go and sacrifice your animal for you and distribute it in the Haram boundary. That is also very useful. And if you want to apply for your visa, you have the portal visa.mofa.gov.sa. That is the website link to apply for the visa. Click on visitor, click on electronic visa waiver, and you can apply for that yourself. You will get that straight away, inshallah. Similarly, some useful apps. You're going to need the Nusuk app, like I said, for the Rawdah booking. Number two, the Haramain high-speed railway. If you're going to go by train, they also have an app called HHR. Your Madinah app was your FCPM app. Also, Ummah Welfare Trust, they have a project called Life with Allah. They have a dhikr and dua app. It's just called dhikr and dua. It's amazing. It's got so many dhikr and dua from the ahadith, sunnah dhikr that you can read. Very useful for your journey. It's got the meaning as well. Also, getting around Saudi, they do use Uber, much cheaper than local taxis. You won't get ripped off. Very quick and efficient. But they also have their own version in the Arab world. They have two companies that are same as Uber. One is Kareem with a C, and one is Genie. They both also run in Saudi, so should you wish to use those also. And then it might be also a recommendation to get the airline app so that you can get your boarding pass straight away and you're not waiting in long queues. Other than that, you do need internet connection for your Nusuk app. So if you don't want to go through the hassle of swapping SIMs, you can get an eSIM. This is one that I've used in quite a few countries, quite useful. It's called Aerolo, developed by some brothers from Turkey. So you don't need to buy the SIM, you just download it, see how much gig you want for data, and thereafter you've got your internet connection when you land there also. And lastly, we do have the Q&A left. We subsequently do that after Salah. Salah is a quarter past. Adhan is now, or we've got quite a lot. We've got a couple of questions that we need to go through. If it's okay, we'll get ready for Salah and do it after Salah. Everyone can have a break also. Is that okay? No other program after Salah. Inshallah, we'll do that so that we don't have to. You have a bit of a break. I know you've been here for nearly 2 hours now. You're tired. We'll get ready, freshen up your mind to get ready for Salah. We pray Isha Salah. Those of you that did ask the question, I do apologize. It's going to slightly delay. But after Isha Salah, as soon as we prayed our Sunnah and Witr, inshallah, we will start straight away and we'll quickly go through whichever questions were on the padlets. I will leave this up here. If you still have any questions, quickly scan the code. The rest of us can get ready for Salah, inshallah, and we'll go through the questions and answer after Salah, inshallah. Is that okay? Subhanallah, bihamdi, subhanakallah, bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.